Here we go.
What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads and fathers that's sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And in 2023, 2022, and 2021, our team reached out directly and indirectly to over 100,000 dads and fathers around the world. Also, I am a content provider for the Fly Nubian Queen YouTube channel that has over 550,000 subscribers. And also, coming very soon, I'll be a content provider for the Indie Soup Media Network, which is a independent content creators network that has a reach of over 1 million people. So as always, I like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. We're broadcasting live on January 18th, Black Canada Talking, where Black Canadians give their points, takes, POVs on stories and situations, not only at home, but around the world. So as always, you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. For being here. Some housekeeping duties. I should say houseworking, but housekeeping duties. Please subscribe to the Dr. Vibe channel on YouTube and hit the notification button. Also follow the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Also, if you want to advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms that I host, please feel free to email me at dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. And becoming a mainstay, it's always been a mainstay of Black Canada Talking, Cesar Ndema-Moussa. What is up, Cesar?
Hi, Dr. Vibe. Hi, family. Hi, brothers and sisters. Thanks for having me, as always.
Well, thanks for having you, and we got you today. Happy belated birthday, young man.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks. It's not the first birthday. Hopefully it's not the last either, but yes, age is a privilege. Thank you always for having me. Yeah.
Well, very happy to get you from your birthday celebrations. And what did the boss of the house, how did she celebrate it, the little one?
Well, she was very happy. So wifey had a great idea to bring some distraction, aka pencils, coloring books, and small snacks for the kids. We had about 10 children, 10 children that were there. So we were very fortunate. We were at a Nigerian restaurant, Suya Palace. Totally worth going to in Ottawa. Great place, great food. Everybody was very, very, very happy. And I'm saying,
why wouldn't be? You're there. Why wouldn't they be happy?
Well, the funniest thing. So yesterday was an elimination game for the African Cup of Nations, and Cameroon, the colonial country where I'm born in, lost to Nigeria. They lost to Nigeria, and the restaurant for my birthday was a Nigerian restaurant. But I'm really glad. I'm really glad. This is what Pan-Africanism is. It's nationalism is a Eurocentric concept. Right. First and foremost, it's us as a people supporting one another, and really coming there. It was good. So I'm really glad. So yes, Suya Palace, wifey had a great idea. Great turnout of people who came. Over 50 people came, more than I even expected. And my thoughts to all those who couldn't make it due to health and due to, accidents on the road, actually. I had a couple of friends who had accidents on the road.
No, sorry to hear about that.
Exactly. No, really great. So I'm glad to be here.
Before we go any further, I know you wanted to talk a little, I'll stay in my place. So before we go any further, if anyone wants to get in contact with Cesar, there's his email address, president at rootsandculturecanada.com and also Facebook, Cesar Remy. All right. We are good to go. And let's start for our first and leading in nicely because you did celebrate a birthday. You wanted to talk about wellness, purpose, and care as Blacks.
Yes, yes. And, you know, age is a privilege. As we age, it's a privilege. But even more, what's a privilege is the gift of friendship and support, and even more precious, even more rare. As many people told me, and I told you, over 50 people showed up. The restaurant ran out of rice. An African restaurant ran out of rice.
I've never heard of that before.
Yes, yes. And, oh, and people who had left did come back.
Okay.
So in my mind, I was thinking we were going to be leaving at 9. We ended up leaving at 11 at the closure of the restaurant.
Shut it down. Shut
Yeah,
it down.
yeah. So, no, love, having love in terms of from a partner, from your family and friends. People were impressed, and maybe I didn't like really. What drove me is, let's say, selfishly, my birthday last night, because I took for granted that, for example, my sister in New York would fly to come here for my birthday.
What?
But it impressed many people. I took it for granted because it's my sister.
Yeah.
It's like, I have, wow, one of my brothers showed up, took a flight from Toronto, and he showed up. And like I said, other people couldn't make it because accidents, or tire popped on the road, and they sent photos. A very close friend of mine, he doesn't need to send the photos to confirm, but he actually did have a flat on the way, you see.
Wow.
So that aspect of love that I'm talking about, we often talk about the Black community. You hear me, I clearly tell people, stop referring to each other by the N word, the B word, and etc. We are brothers and sisters, because in this age that we live in, and I'm saying this age, aka the last 500 years by Western standards, but truly since the 7th century, when we look in terms of the Arab Muslim invasion of Kemet/Egypt, we are brothers and sisters. The different skin pigmentation, or darker or lighter, or which Caribbean island we come from, aka slave port, or which part of the Americas, which country, aka colonial country, we come from, or which African country, aka colonial, former colony, we come from. And yet we are seen first and foremost as Black first. While we are here, talking, and enjoying, things that are denounced, toxic entertainment, excess consumerism, the poison of Abrahamism and Brahmism in the minds of Black people. We have uh, Black indigenous in Australia 2 days ago, January 26th, so the day before my birthday. For them, it's a national holiday in Australia, but for them, it is the day of theft of their land. And just last year, the constitution of the country was voted down by 60% of the population to recognize them as not only full individuals, but to have a council addressing the issues, as we have here in Canada, addressing indigenous issues here in Canada, all the way down to Brazil. So it really leads me how it's absolutely not to sour the note, or some full intellectualism about my birthday, but what is the point of being a Pan-Africanist, a thinking person, a person who gets the love from the community, from friends, from family? I had colleagues, professional colleagues that I sit on boards, that are there at university level, etc., etc., who were there. We had uh, professionals, lawyers, doctors, etc., etc., public servants, students in medicine, social sciences. We had a diversity of people who were present, who took a time and effort to show up for my birthday. I feel very humbled. I feel very honored. But I wish this was the norm for all of our people. But this is where I remind our people this is not exceptional and it's not about the number. Someone else couldn't. I mean, if I take the example of someone like Drake, how many people would show up for his birthday? 100,000? So it's not the number, it's the quality, the care. How many people really show up because they care about you, because you have had some type of impact. I read some of the birthday letters that were attributed to me, and time and again, that's what they talked about. So again, it's not about me in terms of me as an individual. It's in terms of us making an effort for our community, us being present for our families, us being present for our friends. Because when it comes to the wellness of Black people, yes, it's important, and we must always talk about health in terms of cardiovascular, in terms of for example, whether it's prostate cancer or gastric issues, and definitely we must talk about mental health. We must. But the wellness, the purpose, and the care that we give each other in talking about the Black community and raising our fist, in talking about the ideology of Pan-Africanism, for those who call each other by the N word and the B word and whatever word some artists make popular, but for those like me who will claim brothers and sisters in the continuation of our ancestors, of our heroes, are we really coming together as a community, looking out for one another in terms of making people, as one of my cousins said, we have to show each other love while we are alive. One of my cousins was coming from, I think she told me, a wake in the morning, and at night she was at my birthday. So she was reflective, being in her mid-20s, successful. I mean, she's very intelligent, and everything you want. Successful in school, successful professionally, and she's only in her mid-20s, and she had a reflection about in the morning. It was a celebration of life in terms of someone who just passed. In the evening, it's a celebration of life in terms of someone getting older, and so many children in the restaurant. The restaurant was full of life, like 10 children, 10 beautiful Black children of different skin tone, from white passing to the darker and the sweeter, as Tupac would have said. So that's what I meant, that I think uh, self-reflection, awareness, really looking at our people. Um, and I'm not here, I have to be careful about this. You will never hear me talking and defending the notion of keeping close to you people who are toxic to you. And people who can be toxic can be family members, can be friends. You have to be able to cut them off for your own well being. This is not what I'm talking about. I am talking about those who are around you, those that you see making efforts. It's not about success per se, it's making effort, progressing, seeing a sense of purpose to them, lending a hand to them, listening for that 5 minutes or that extra 5 minutes. I have the honor of having mentor. I have a new person this early January who asked to be my who asked to be one of my mentees. At 20, she's turning 24 this year. Yeah, born in 2000, asking to be one of my mentees, and she's a graduate from the university. It's an honor, but the honor must not be individual. We must elevate ourselves as a community. We must support each other. We must show that sense of wellness, that sense of purpose, that sense of care to our fellow Black sister and Black brother so that we can keep advancing and not celebrate Cesar or Drake's birthday, but celebrate that our community is advancing, that our families are doing better, that we are holding each other accountable, but even more, we are supporting each other to hold ourselves accountable. I wouldn't be the person I am today without the environment, the circle around me, and that includes even you, Dr. Vibe. You may not be that medical doctor, but behind the mic, you are helping to the betterment of the health
Thank you.
in many layers of the community.
Thank you. Appreciate that. You know, it's when you sent your email this morning saying yesterday was your birthday, it was it's interesting. Before I came on our conversation today, about an hour ago, a lady who I've known for a very long time, her and her sister,
Mhm.
their father was celebrating his 90th
Oh, wow.
birthday. 90. I like, and I gave him his flowers and all that. And the first thing, and he says, "When you coming by?" So that in the next week or two, I'm going to be intentional to sit beside him, and I'm going to ask him, whatever you want to say it, but give me some thoughts on your life and
Mhm.
how you've been able, and give me some to-dos from your valued experience, because he's still pretty good. He's
Mhm.
still, and he obviously, to live 90 years old,
90 years
gotta
old.
have purpose, and he looks pretty darn good. He came back and he says, "When you coming by?" So I glean to our elders. I don't know if I'm going to live down. I don't even know how long I'm going to live, but you know what? While I'm
Yeah.
here, I'm going to make the best of what I got
There you go. There you go.
and learn from those, stand on their shoulders and lift them up so they can help lift me up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's never about perfection. It's about
So,
progress. And it's
yep.
not about quantity in terms of whatever you think you have or how long you live. It's about the quality and what you leave behind. What you leave behind concretely, but especially what you leave behind in the feelings, in the minds, in the memories of others. Uh, when we pack a restaurant, when we fill a restaurant to the point that they run out of rice,
Wow. I've never seen that
the
before.
impressive part to me is not that they run out of rice. The impressive part for me is when the photos are taken, the owner comes and turns out that I knew this brother. When years ago I was a security manager in nightclubs, and this owner, he is so happy. Why? And we had this conversation. Let's not forget the hype of the holidays usually goes with a slowdown of businesses
Yep.
in January. And we're
January.
talking,
Yep.
there you go. We're talking about a black business and everything you want. And here we are talking about, uplifting, supporting our community. So thanks to one of my friends who reminded me, like, black owned restaurant and all that. But basically, the restaurant ran out of rice. A Nigerian restaurant ran out of rice. That's how many people we had. That's over 50 people. That's so many people. And I don't even know how many ordered a second plate, but I am glad that I saw brothers and sisters, servers helping, asking for help, customers, aka friends and family, helping them, looking after the children. We had a sense of community going there, communion going there from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m.,
Wow.
ending with some
Beautiful.
music, dancing, photos, everything you want. This is what I envision for our community. It's not me per se, Cesar. It's never about look at Drake's party or Drake's birthday. It's each and every one of us, sister and brother. But it can only come talking about wellness, having a sense of purpose, showing that care, showing that community love, that brotherly, sisterly love that translates into family love, friendly love, and being there for one another. That's what it is.
Before we go to break, I'm going to ask you a conversation piece. What would today's Cesar told Cesar when he was growing up?
There are many things, to be quite honest. I apply I apply them all. Um, I mean, I don't know what I would have turned out if I had understood and stopped believing in religions and gods earlier. But I would truly say the value of working hard, of listening to others, of, and I don't believe in anything, of knowing you have potential. I say this, yes, I am privileged in terms of my family environment, but knowing you have potential that, yes, you can, yes, you put in the efforts, there will be setbacks. And anyone who knows me knows I face setbacks from health issues. That's why I wear shades, my friends. It's not for looking cool. If you knew about my eyes, you would be surprised that I'm even here. But
Mm,
uh, to never, never give up. To I have what I call triple A logic. To adjust in order to adapt, in order to advance.
beautiful.
Adjust is temporarily. Adapt is long term slash permanently. You adapt. You adjust to adapt in order to advance. No matter the pace, you must always be able to look back and say you have advanced. You minimize the regrets. You need a strong work ethics. You need principles and values. You need ultimately to face your greatest enemy, who is also your greatest supporter. That's called not God or hell or some demon. No, it's yourself in front of the mirror. It's yourself at night when you have when you into your reflections. It's yourself as you're getting older or as others are looking at you, whether they say good, whether they say bad. Your greatest supporter and your greatest enemy is yourself. Adjust to adapt to advance always.
All right. Good way for us to take a quick little break. And on the other end, I don't know, we'll have some conversation, not so uplifting, about some not so uplifting things that are going on in the world. So keep it locked. Black Canada Talking. We'll be back in 90 seconds.
And that's what I feel like. You feel like you're the Harry Tubman of the mind.
I
I
am.
feel like I'm the I'm one of the Harry Tubmans of intelligent black people. Like I want to liberate y'all from like being left behind and ignored and oblivion. No, really, the
Yeah.
rappers get all the attention. Seriously, does anybody else feel this way? Like ignorant black people, they'll be all up, getting all the headlines on the shade room
Overly
and
sexualized black
over
folks.
like the twerkers and the just people that don't always represent the best of us, the diversity, like people like Dr. Vibe. Like everybody should know about people like Dr. Vibe.
They
Dr.
really
Vibe is
should.
he's trying to do good work for black people. Dr. Vibe from Toronto, good to see you, my brother. Dr. Vibe, everybody follow Dr. Vibe. He has a great show. He's very good at what he does, and I have a lot of respect for him. Okay, so let me hop into this. What's up, Dr. Vibe? How you doing? Everybody, if you see Dr. Vibe in the chat, everybody go follow the Dr. Vibe show. Dr. Bob is a real smart brother and a good human being. I like the guy a lot, and he's very intelligent. And I think everyone should pay attention to what he's got going on. We got to shine the spotlight on the intelligent black people out here that are really doing the good work. Don't just pay attention to the rappers and the celebrities. A lot of these people are losers. Your true winners are your people in your community that are really having your back. Helping us to have stronger families and a stronger community. So Dr. Bob is in that category. So you might see the Dr. Bob show in this chat. If you see him, please go follow him. Okay. All right. So anyway.
Okay, we are back. Always a shout out to Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins, supporters of the Dr. Vibe show, and we support them back.
Big shout out to them.
Yeah, and we are here with Cesar, Black Canada Talking, January 28th, 2024. January is almost done. I don't even just like flew. It just flew by. I'm telling you, I guess, especially when you go along in your journey of age, time does go by faster. So we got to enjoy everyday life. So let's come back. I think we had uplifting. Now we're dealing with some of the challenges of the world. First up, Canada's international student situation. Cesar, this is going to be a crazy one. So go for it, man.
This is an important and growing conversation. Well, I should be careful in saying that. It's an important and growing conversation for mainstream Canada that has not noticed how for many years, including even when I was in university, years ago, the very fact that we see the, I have to be careful with my words, but many would agree to say exploitation, taking advantage of international students who basically are being fed with dreams of success and guaranteed job, etc. in Canada, as Canada, more often than not, has better living standards than the country they come from. And yet it is very much a business. Why a business? Because of the capping coming this year from the federal government in terms of the number of international students that will become limited. In the larger conversation that has been going on in Canada regarding what? Increasing living costs, housing, food prices, and the scapegoat that has been pointed to has become the international student. The international student will very often tends to be the victim of what they call degree mills, aka schools that use notably third-party tactics to attract these international students. 40 to 50% of them coming from India, to the point where the estimations are that in this year, $2 billion will come into Canadian universities and colleges from students from India compared to government funding of $1.9 billion. And this $2 billion is in excess to international students from all over the world compared to India. And the Indian students also pay more than even the domestic students, Canadian students going into colleges and universities. It's a dangerous racket that goes beyond talking about the brain drain. Let us not forget that a few weeks to months ago, Canada was having some geopolitical dispute with India regarding Sikh activism. The relations cooled down quite much between Canada and India. And as such, we basically are having a situation here where we have so many, and it's not just Indian, notably Nigerian students being taken advantage of. Very often, these international students pay 2 to 3, and I'm pretty sure even more than 3 times the fees for education, for higher education, than domestic Canadian students. Most of them aiming to have the famous PR status, permanent residency. Right now in Canada, as we speak, there is 1 million international students in this country. 1 million. That is a huge number. I just talked about Canada and India. It goes to a larger conversation too. There is a rise of hate in Canada. There is a rise of far-right movements and far-right rhetoric that likes to point to immigration as a source of problem. As I said, from rising cost of living to housing, food prices, etc., etc. Are we setting up these international students for success or failure beyond just taking advantage of them financially? And I'm saying we, in terms of Canada as a country, these are not secrets. Even CBC went undercover to reveal some of the tactics of these third-party agents who too often, we have to admit, are also working on behalf of colleges or universities that are truly aware of what's going on, because some of these colleges and universities really went from a bankrupt / negative budget to boosting the finances thanks to an influx of international students. This is beyond talking about brain drain. This is beyond talking about scapegoating on, you know, economic issues and pointing to immigration and international students. This is furthering the very notions of colonialism, global capitalism. Who's being hurt? It's not Canadian born students who are paying 2 to 3 times university fees to go study in India. They're not the ones growing the bank accounts of universities in Delhi or Mumbai or, in Indian states. No, it's a very regrettable situation where more and more of the students are being taken advantage of. We have to denounce it from a place of equity, from a place of addressing racism, and from a simple place of human rights and dignity that Canada likes to pride itself of. Many of those students coming here to live in conditions that would not be considered legal in Canada. How many are sharing a room? How many are basically struggling, notably with the shame to admit the difficulties back home to the families? I remember cases that I read. I can't give the name offhand, but I remember cases that I read of international students, notably from India, committing suicide due to the harshness that they live here. Again, this is a blow on the Canadian postcard. And I meet international students. I met one just a few days ago as I came to a hotel, and the receptionist, mid-20s, Indian students, I think finished the studies in engineering or something like that. And we had a long and deep conversation regarding the fact of how he feels so disappointed by Canada, he wants to go back home, having spent all this time, all this money, and being here alone. It's I encourage all of our Black people, but also all people here in Canada, but also in the US, because this issue also exists in the United States, by the way. Just as it exists in France. Matter of fact, France restricting immigration laws, notably addressing international students, as if that's the issue. The bigger issue is to address colonialism, capitalism, and the very brain drain of the so-called global South, some people would say third world countries, in the ongoing exploitation that's happening for institutions to be making maximum profits while setting up dangerous human rights violations upon other humans. We can't tolerate this. We cannot tolerate this.
Well, because the time is limited, but this is a bigger conversation because I've noticed in the last year, immigration is becoming a frontline issue in Canada. It has been for a number of years in the United States, and people would say, "Oh, yeah, it's just happening." Well, it's a frontline issue here. A few quick things. First of all, I'm going to chat with you offline. There is a young gentleman student that I began to get to know who is from Cameroon, and we've been chatting. And over the last weeks, he's been all of a sudden. I'm trying to understand the details. He has to come up with $8,000 by the end of February, or he's back home.
Yeah, get kicked out. Yeah,
and this immigration thing, and I know that is your homeland, and I'm gonna chat with you offline to see maybe if we have at least a conversation with him. And I saw him today, and I said, "How are you sleeping at night?" He says, "No, I'm not." He's not. And then the larger thing about, and I think we also have to put some blame, not only, well, there's the situation here, but also blame to some of the bad actors from the countries that these people are coming from, because it's a business, and they're telling them things. They're telling them things that are not true, because there's another situation I'm dealing with here, or trying to help here, where this couple who is older come to Canada, and basically they have a younger child. Because of the point system here in Canada, if they don't do something, well, they've paid money for university education, they're in debt. Yeah. And basically now they've been told that they've got to move to Nova Scotia from Toronto, but their son can stay here because he has more, I guess, the point system, the son has more to offer. We have to continue this conversation at a date and time, because this immigration thing, whether it's international students or just immigrants, especially ones black, and this all started with the African immigrants a little while back who came to Toronto. That
Yeah.
situation hasn't calmed down either, by the way, family.
Mm-hmm.
It just because it's not in the newspaper or in the news anymore doesn't mean it's still a concern. It's a large concern, because I see a number of them. I go, how are you surviving winter? Because remember, many of these people, they don't know the cold Canada. All they've been told by
Yeah.
their people from where they're from is, oh, all this opportunity, Canada, etc. It's a very scary situation.
There was CBC showed how, notably in India, some of these bad actors pretending to these Indian students. And something very important that our people have to understand: many of these Indian students, they don't. Well, most of them, they actually don't come from rich families.
They don't.
They come from what you
They
could
don't.
call Indian middle class, but truly
They
lower
don't.
economics to poverty, families that go into debt to give a chance to their son or daughter to come to Canada to increase their education and have a better chance at life. But at the same time, because of the nature of these lies and the financial pressures put on them, we are basically setting up a ticking time bomb of homelessness,
Yeah.
of poverty, and mental health issues of these international students becoming trapped here, whether or not they do get that permanent residency. Permanent residency, the claim for all of them is 100% guaranteed you will get it. The reality is not just that it's 30% will do get it, but that's 30% within a decade. Within a decade. Those are terrible numbers. These are basically breaking a system, unintentionally or intentionally, breaking individuals. Yes, there are ministers, federal just as provincial, who are getting involved to stop it, to rein it in, to basically change the rules, to bring more norms and regulations. But how many have already been broken? How many have had to make bad choices in order to try to come up with the money by X date in order to remain in Canada, in order to be able to go back to school next week? How many of their parents back home to the countries, as I mentioned, India and Nigeria, have had to go further in debt and risk the well-being of the family? And debts in many of those countries where we originate from, it's not just debt in the right now. It's debt that creates problem even for the next generation, that creates family tensions, community tensions.
It's a generational wealth damager. Like
Absolutely.
it's really ridiculous. And you are right. A lot of these international students don't come from families that have a lot.
Exactly.
It's not the rich ones are few and far between. They go to private colleges and things like that, but the majority, it's a day-to-day survival, not only physically but emotionally, but mentally too.
Absolutely.
So definitely we'll continue this conversation, because over the last year I'm really noticing how much it's in my face.
Mhm.
Actually, I spoke with a gentleman earlier on this afternoon who's from Africa, and he was a doctor back in Africa, but at least he's come here and he's now trying to become a PSW, working his way to becoming a doctor here. He's the minority.
Yeah.
That has made some progress, because he's action oriented. Many of them, they're overwhelmed.
Yeah. And too often they're here alone. I've had
Yes.
to help. So I've had to help some.
Yes.
End of December, I had a cousin of mine who brought me such a person, a mix of international student and refugee. Because sometimes it's also escaping situations back home.
Absolutely.
And coming to Canada, having been fed false dreams and false hopes. And it's important for many of our brothers and sisters listening, especially for those who are not born in Canada, they will totally get it. But for those who are born here, it can be an extreme shock and traumatizing experience to experience Canadian winter the first time.
Look, there's enough Canadians that can't handle it who are born here.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, we're talking in 2024.
Yeah.
Do we dare to try to imagine what it was like for our ancestors being kidnapped out of Africa and discovering winter in the Americas 500, 400, 300, 200 years ago?
Mhm.
Imagine the trauma. They didn't come here and be received with winter boots and winter jackets.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to our next conversation piece. Speaking about a gentleman in immigration, a person who doesn't like immigration that much, I'll just call him 45. He's having some fun times in the United States between political and courts. What are your thoughts about what's going on with him these days?
Well, I find interesting, speaking of Donald Trump, that this man, um, there was a political analyst who made a great point about how American politics used to be, and he was really saying used to be before Trump, a field in which misbehaviors were not so much the issue, and giving examples such as, you know, Richard Nixon and Watergate, Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky, but we can even go, JFK being unfaithful to his wife, etc. So it wasn't so much an issue of misbehaviors per se, but there was a rule that was borderline sacrosanct, which was a politician caught lying is a dead politician. It could ruin your career. And truthfully, with Donald Trump, this has ended. So here you have a man who basically, and I mean, we talk a lot about Trump, and we are not done talking about Trump as the Republican primaries are happening, and definitely it's a contest now between him and Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley, who we were talking about Indian international students, he is now referring to by her Indian birth name in an attempt to cast her out as the stranger, the foreigner, the non-white. I mean, Nikki Haley is white, ethnicity Aryan, but she's white. I mean, anyone who doesn't know her name, look it up. She's a white woman. You can argue all you want that, because she's Indian. No, Indian is the nationality. Nikki Haley is a white woman. But Donald Trump trying to literally, as he has done before, aka that's how Donald Trump came into politics, for those who don't remember, putting to dispute Barack Obama's birth in terms of legitimacy to become a president. Again, ordering, turning into the stranger, the foreigner, that non-socially seen as a white person. So it's the same thing we're having here. But this man, Donald Trump, who lies constantly and yet keeps having a strong base, he basically got ordered to pay $83 million in court to E. Jean Carroll, a woman he tried to pretend he didn't know, but that got exposed as false. A woman that sexual assault, rape, he got found guilty. This is a person that so many are following, so many are seeing as a champion of freedom, when truly he has literally insulted every group of the people who support him, whether they be in law enforcement and military, whether they be senior citizens, whether they be veterans, whether they be poor people, and the very people that will support him, he has insulted them. I mean, he's looking down on women, being a sexist, just as being a racist. You must have seen that video clip of, was it Tuesday, I think, Senator Tim Scott, talking about how he loves Trump more than Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley, who did appoint him senator, who supported him to become senator, and this Tim Scott, that brother is the literal definition of shamelessness of being black in politics. This man is like, he makes me laugh. I know white Republicans don't take him seriously. They don't take him seriously. The brother is a joke. He's Django Forever, the butler of the house. That's him. That's him. I say this without any insult. I just look at it by his own behavior. How do you betray the person who supported you, appointed you as senator, and you go support and profess your love for the person you were competing against to become the Republican nominee for the presidency? It's politics. It's the nature of lying. It's the nature of games. It's the nature of survival. For all of them, including Nikki Haley, it's the fear of the base of Donald Trump. Those MAGA, that hardline, hardcore, that is said to be up to 30% of the Republican base, which very much indicates the outright racist nature, racist following. And let's be careful. I'm not claiming there are no Democrats who are not racist. We know there are. But when it comes to the Republican Party, they're openly out there espousing rhetoric racism, notably of anti-white racism, which is a lie, it doesn't exist, anti-immigration, anti-black, anti-poverty, anti-women's rights, and notably supported by Republican conservative women opposed to women's rights. So what we see here basically with Trump turning all his court issues into a capital to fuel his political career, only to stay in the spotlight, in the limelight, only in order to be able to become president, in order to pardon himself and not be jailed for what clearly are the crimes he has committed. If there's any black conservative or black Republican who will want to argue or debate regarding the everything I'm saying about Donald Trump and his crimes and all that, I challenge them to one simple question. Donald Trump, white man, billionaire, blonde hair, whatever you want to call him, orange man. If that was Barack Obama or any other black man mixed with green eyes or dark skin like he's born in Sudan or Senegal, how likely do you think that person will still be free, no jail, notably after January 6th? Notably after recordings of tapes referring to women's private parts as he did. Notably in regards to some of the behaviors that he has had, including within the White House and notably towards Secret Service. How likely? Because the 83 million, by the way, came from him repeating, basically defaming and making false allegations regarding the woman E. Jean Carroll that he had been condemned to pay $5 million. He got found guilty of sexually assaulting her. I want to be careful. I can't remember if he was sexually assaulting or if he was raping. One or the other, that's bad. And he got found guilty in order to pay $5 million. But because he kept repeating that false narrative that he creates for his followers, and he did that during a CNN town hall, where he kept repeating a lie. That's why he got found guilty ultimately, due to the nature of the damage and the punitive nature of his lies. From 5 million, an additional 83 million. I would love if there's a black conservative Republican who is so opposed to what I'm saying, and I'm not a Democratic Party or liberal or left-leaning wing, whatever you want to call it. I'd love to challenge them to ask that simple question. If the white man billionaire named Donald Trump was a black man, billionaire as in entertainment, like Jay-Z, or in the world of business, Aliko Dangote, the richest black man in the world, or I think the brother Robert Smith, in the U.S.,
richest black person in America.
If he was any of those brothers, non-controversial, they don't have issues with the law, they're doing great things for the people, they're giving jobs, they're helping to pay for, tuitions. If he was any of these three black men that I've named, would they be free? Would they literally have had the same treatment that Donald Trump has had in the justice system, in the media, etc., etc.?
Good question. Good question. Let's move on to one more conversation topic. Another quiet one: South Africa versus Israel at the International Court of Justice and Geopolitics.
A very, very important topic. Very important topic for our brothers and sisters to understand. And when I say very important, we must dare to read this topic, to look at its ramifications, and understand how in 2024 the world is changing. It is a world that's changing where, and I'm not saying this in terms of support of South Africa, nor opposition of Israel. As I've said, I repeat it, and I say this even furthermore, as this coming week I will be conducting forums across the province on the Israel-Palestine conflict, and I will add a lens in regards to a black lens of the conflict. I am not pro-Israeli and I'm not pro-Palestinian. I am pro-black. I'm a Pan-Africanist, especially I am pro-innocent life, I am pro-peace, and I'm pro-truth. I've never heard of Israelis nor Palestinians fighting or disputing themselves on which side they are of the Congolese question, the Haitian question, the African American or African Canadian question. So this notion of dividing black people because of other people's issues doesn't work with me. I say it categorically, and I will say it every day of this week as I begin every day of the forum. Coming back to this topic, it speaks to the nature of changing geopolitics, but also changing demographics, changing power relations, and what many, and I'm talking white conservative thinkers themselves, are speaking of more and more in terms of the fall of the Western world. As South Africa taking Israel to the International Court of Justice regarding the ongoing, because it's not done, the ongoing disproportionate level of violence that Israel is impacting upon the civilians. And I'm really saying civilians of Gaza. Absolutely what happened on October 7 to Israel, and we can truly say Jewish people, is a terrorist act, what Hamas did. The killing, the numbers went down from 1,500, now it's standing at roughly 1,200, 1,200 dead. Terrorist act, absolutely. We must condemn it. But hypocrites are those who want to condemn it, whether or not they're pro-Israeli, but want to stay silent to the suffering that's been ongoing of citizens in Gaza, where the death toll, according to the Gaza Health Ministry, many people say Hamas Health Ministry, that's fine, has reached up to 26,000 dead. 1,200, 26,000 dead. And it's ongoing. So South Africa actually won at the International Court of Justice. And not only did they win in terms of the recognition that Israel, by the International Court of Justice, that Israel must stop what is tantamount to leading to acts of genocide against the Palestinian people of Gaza, but the very court, a court more known for trying African dictators, I mean, George Bush, Tony Blair, and Nicolas Sarkozy, are never going to go to that court for having brought down under false pretenses Gaddafi and destabilizing North Africa, Libya, and the Sahel region, which led to the death of so many thousand people since 2011. They're never going to face that court. So that court is known for trying African dictators and notably weak European leaders such as from Serbia. But this court, in the changing nature of power relations, has come to recognize that Israel was guilty of what many people are speaking of more and more in terms of genocide. To think that Israel, the nation, so Israel, the modern nation of Israel, Eretz Israel, that saw its founding in 1948. A lot of black people like to think Israel and they confuse with the Bible. No, no, no. The Israel of the Bible, what we're talking about is the modern state of Israel, Eretz Israel. This is why there are many Jews, notably Orthodox Jews, who do not recognize the state of Israel because this state of Israel is not founded on the Torah. It's founded on the European notions of nationalism and identity born from the 19th century. That's what gave birth to Zionism. Zionists, the original Zionists, definitely were not religious. It was an ideological movement based on nationalism and identity, not on religion. So, with South Africa winning, the state of Israel that was funded, that was created to protect those who survived the Shoah, the genocide of the Jews by the Germans during World War II. I have to be careful. I shouldn't say by the Germans, I should say by the Nazi regime, to be more specific. Now it's finding itself being found guilty. And who are opposing this court decision the most? Nations such as the United States, France, and Germany. Interestingly, nations that have had genocide by their own agents against other indigenous populations. It's very interesting the nature of change as South Africa being part of the BRICS. The BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and a growing number of countries joining, and notably such as Saudi Arabia, Argentina, and others wanting to join in changing the way world affairs are being conducted. A perfect example of this is how the United Nations Security Council is made of 5 countries: USA, Russia, aka former USSR, China, Great Britain, and France, aka the winners of World War II. 80 years later, so 79 years if you want to be specific, 79 years later, the situation of the world has quite changed. It becomes a bit outrageous to think in a world where by 2050, it is estimated, 2050 to the end of this century, 2100, 1 human out of 3 will be Africans. Nigeria is not on the United Nations Security Council. With all the issues that Nigeria has, I already see people coming as if America does not have its own issues. India, which has become the world's most populated country, is not on the United Nations Security Council. With all the issues India has, as if China and Russia, but also France and England don't have their own issues. So it is definitely a telling of the changing nature of geopolitics, of power relations, of what I've told our Black people for so many conferences, during so many conferences, trainings, etc. Geopolitics is a matter of power more than a matter of race. China rose from the bottom to become the powerhouse that it is today. India, and we were talking about international students, up to half of them coming from India, is not seen the same way as it was 40 years ago, 30 years ago, as a poor third world country. I remind our Black people, if you want to understand what I mean regarding China, I invite you to watch the movie Dragon probably the best movie, Hollywood movie about the life of Lee John Fan. Dr. Vibe, do you know who Lee John Fan is?
I have heard of him. I have heard of him.
That's the real name of Bruce Lee, because Bruce Lee is not his real name. That's the name for white people, for Hollywood.
Yes.
The movie Dragon, there is a scene, there's a short scene that basically shows you how, even in the late 60s, early 70s, Chinese people were looked at. And look at today. Look at the difference today. In a matter of a few decades, when there is political power, when there is political will. And this is what you see with South Africa. This is, and please, this is not just a matter of the memory of Madiba, Nelson Mandela, who showed support to the former PLO leader, Yasser Arafat, because Arafat supported Mandela and Mandela supported Arafat. This is beyond the matter of South Africans supporting Palestinians, because even in South Africa, the population, many of the population complain of human rights, etc. This is geopolitics. This is about power. This is about South Africa becoming emboldened. This is about countries of the so-called global South becoming more powerful, understanding the demographics is increasing, understanding the cooperation, the collaboration can help to thrive, to help them rise above many challenges and difficulties. Meanwhile, the Western world, Western nations are slowly but surely crumbling. And I'm being careful. This is not a matter of a few years. And to be honest, it's not something that we necessarily want to wish, not only because we live in the Western world, but because the end of empires can be very violent, can be traumatic. But it's about changing geopolitics, changing the nature of relations between states to try to create a more equitable world. We cannot live in a world where we find normal that to avenge 1,200 people killed in a terrorist act, which I denounce, it's okay to kill 26,000 people, overwhelmingly innocent civilians. That is a crime against humanity. That is a war crime, as it's being called. Notice I'm not saying genocide. I have a literal definition of the notion of genocide, which, although many such comments have been made by far-right Israeli/Jewish leaders in Israel, as an African, notice I said 26,000 Palestinians in Gaza will have been killed in the last 3 months. Dr. Vibe, as an African, and you will hear this from many Africans, allow me to expand to many blacks, but especially many Africans. In 3 months, the state of Israel, in rightfully defending itself, in rightfully avenging the death of its own, has killed 26,000 innocents in Gaza. I know there are some Hamas militants in there, but roughly speaking, 26,000 people. 30 years ago, 1994, in Rwanda, in 3 months, so the same time frame as Israel has killed 26,000 people. 30 years ago in Rwanda, the genocide of the Tutsis and moderate Hutus, 3 months, the same time frame as Israel right now, killing 26,000 in Gaza. The hardline genocidal Hutu militants killed in 3 months 800,000. 800,000. And where Israel is killing people in Gaza with the guns and the bombs, in Rwanda 30 years ago, 800,000 people got killed with machetes, with knives, with rocks, with sticks and batons. This is not about oppression Olympics. This is not about genocide Olympics. As an African and one who address these issues, will study these issues, I have a more literal definition of genocide. So it's absolutely not comparable to me. War crimes, crimes against humanity, yes. Genocide in Rwanda, 800,000 killed in 3 months. The Germans who committed the first genocide of the 20th century against the Herero and Nama people in what we call today Namibia and Southern Africa. 120 years ago, 1904, in a matter of a few months, wiped out 50% of one tribe, 70% of the other tribe, 70 to 80% of the other tribe. That's genocide.
Okay.
That's genocide.
So as we start winding it down today, Cesar, how should, from your Pan-Africanist lens, how should a Pan-Africanist like yourself, how do you approach the current situation between Israel and the Palestinians?
First and foremost, it is not for me, as an African born, as a Pan-Africanist, the ideology of awakening, of community, of empowerment of Black people worldwide. It is not for me to tell white Jews and white Arabs of Israel and Palestine how to settle the conflict. So I will have that humility and respect of the issues. However, as one who is a global citizen, who is reminded of that conflict very much, overwhelmingly because it's white people dying, and because we have a Jewish population that's supported by Western nations, compared to 7 to 10 million dead in Congo in the last 30 years, that absolutely doesn't get the same media attention, and other conflicts in the world, even the situation in Haiti. As one who studied this, as one who has had Jewish studies, as Arab studies, not Arabic, but Arab studies, history, culture, identity in university, I am absolutely a proponent, a supporter of the two-state solution. I'm absolutely a supporter of it. And, even the notion that many people say, from the river to the sea, that got one of our brothers, I'm having a memory blank about his name, university professor who got fired from CNN for making that statement.
Can't remember.
I can't remember his name, but Mark Lamont Hill.
Right. Okay.
Mark Lamont Hill, fired from CNN for making that statement at the United Nations in support of the Palestinian cause. Even as you will have those who support Palestine saying from the river to the sea in terms of Palestinian state, while you will have those who support Israel saying that from the river to the sea is anti-Semitic, implying the wiping away of Jewish population. I don't support that. What I support is absolutely that there has to be peace between those two populations. It's a multi-layered, multi-complex, borderline taboo topic to address in depth. And I will be the one, look at it, I'm a Black man. I will be the one addressing that topic this coming week. 8 forums across the province. There has to be a two-state solution. Are these 26,000, hopefully some peace is found, but ceasefire is found. Are these 26,000 people, and let's say maybe it's 20,000 purely civilians, discounting Hamas militants, are they put on the altar of peace because of renewed efforts by Western nations to bring about peace. But you see, the United States had left off the Middle East question of Israel and Palestine to focus on China, to focus on the world. And now, since October 7th, even Russia and Ukraine, we hear less about it.
We don't hear about it. The only time you hear about it is the Republicans not wanting to fund them.
To fund them anymore. Absolutely. Yeah. So this is really the very nature of change of geopolitics as I was talking about. Is this the catalyst, the excess death toll on both sides? Because 1,200 may seem a lot less than 26,000. Yes, it is. But we're talking about human lives. And in the context of Jewish lives, unless I'm wrong, it is the greatest number of Jewish people killed since World War II. Basically a pogrom. And the small population of Jewish citizens, yes, a few millions in Israel, but also Jewish people in the world, that is a huge number. But 26,000 Palestinians killed. Doesn't matter how many million Palestinians or even how many million Arabs we talk about. It is an absolutely huge number. We must condemn both, and we must, as South Africa, an African country that has been reborn, because before it wasn't an African country, it was a white supremacist country that colonized African lands. A country that has been reborn, fighting against apartheid and colonization, has been the one to bring forth these accusations, to basically dare to challenge the question of, can a state that has been founded for the survival or survivors of genocide now be perpetrator of genocide? Kind of the logic of addressing equity issues where one can be oppressed but can also be oppressor. This is basically from a Pan-Africanist lens. And for my brothers and sisters who love to come and say, all Pan-Africanists supported the Palestinian cause, and, let's be careful in saying that, because there's a lot of it that has to do with how much did they know? How much did they know about what was truly going on? Yes, Brother Martin Luther King walked with Jewish leaders in the 50s and 60s, but this was a time when Jewish people were not seen as white, fully white citizens. But he was about peace first and foremost, recognizing that the antagonizing Arabs would be a catastrophe for the survival also of the Jewish state. In the same way that in Black communities, and notably Black militant communities denouncing racism, we don't talk enough about racism in Arab Muslim communities. It's great to point to white people and speak of the Western Christians, and to extend that to racism in Jewish communities, and notably racism that came from the Torah, although some people will want to deny it. I told you about the Talmudic, the Babylonian Talmud, where basically the first outright negative depictions of Black people that we will call racism today comes from the Babylonian Talmud. So it's great to point to white Christian Westerners, the Crusaders, the colonizers. It's great to look at white supremacy in Jewish communities. And this is not just Black people doing it. You have honest white Jewish intellectuals who are addressing racism in Jewish communities, a rise of borderline white supremacy, notably in the state of Israel, towards African migrants. Remember, we're talking about this, African migrants, but also towards Arab Palestinians. A man such as Dr. Finkelstein, he's Jewish, he's Israeli, he denounces it. There are Jewish organizations that denounce it, but as Black people, and I invite notably our brother Mark Lamont Hill himself to have that intellectual honesty to also address and denounce racism in the Arab Muslim nation and communities that is hurting Black people. That's why I said, for Black people, do not go risk your careers, do not go risk your lives on this issue, taking side, when we don't see Palestinian families and communities, just as Jewish families and communities, dividing themselves over the fate of Congo or Haiti, or taking sides regarding issues impacting African Americans, African Canadians, or Afro Brazilians, etc. We don't see that. I wish them peace. I support two-state solution. In the nature of my work as a professional, yes, I do address the topic, but I'll make it very clear from the very start where I stand. I don't want any confusion. I don't want anyone to even dare to think to put me in a label. I am pro-Black, but I'm also pro-peace. I am also pro-innocent lives, and I'm definitely and always pro-truth.
On that note, I think we've called it a show. And especially on Cesar's birthday, I don't want him to overwork more than he has to. He's had a lot of good times over the birthday weekend. And I just add, everyone, make every day your birthday. Because you never know. You never know. You never know. Cesar, I want to say thank you as always for taking time out of your positive, productive, and also your family and your personal life to make us think.
Thank you. It's an honor. It's an honor. And, it's not because of the birthday, but, like I was saying earlier, quantity of people coming. Like I said, if it's Drake, there will be hundreds and thousands. It's the quality. It's the knowing, as many wrote to me in their letters yesterday, that you make a difference, that you have an impact, that people see that you're committed, that you're devoted, that you're helping. I'm not perfect. I never claim to be, and I will never be. And perfection doesn't exist because to one's eyes, well, someone else has a different judgment. But I'm always progressing, and this is why I invite all of our people to progress. I just adapt and advance, always.
I'll just add on that to Cesar. Really, all I want people to say about me is it was okay meeting him.
Yeah.
So simple. I don't want to make it was okay meeting, and it's okay. It's definitely been okay meeting and getting and growing, continuing to grow with Cesar. There's his email address, president at rootsandculturecanada.com. There's his Facebook, Cesar Remy Emery. My brother, thank you again for taking the time, as always, to you and your family and all the people that you serve. Don't just manage your time, manage your energy, and remember to give yourself grace. And we'll be in touch about that young Cameroon gentleman, too.
Absolutely.
All right. Keep the faith, my brother. All right. Another epic conversation done. Just keeping Cesar's contact information up just for another second or two. All right. And we got some stuff always. The house stuff. Please subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and also hit the notification button. Also follow the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And tell people about the show, please. Also, if you want to advertise on any of the platforms that I host, please feel free to email me, dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. And you can watch replays of this epic conversation, Black Canada Talking, on the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and also my website address, the drvibeshow.com. All right. Thank you so much for watching live on the replay. Thank you for listening on the replay. And as always, this is the way we close out. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Remember to give yourself grace and don't just manage your time, manage your energy. God bless. Peace to you all. Keep the faith and walk good.